Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Matthew Newell with Power Brain, Power Life. How did I get so lucky that we have an old friend, actually the pioneer of this Q&A podcast on the show? Without further ado, I'll get into his accolades in a second. Dr. Nikos, and I want to make sure Dimitriadis joins us. Welcome back, Nikos.
Thank you so much for having me second time. It was such an amazing conversation first time. I can't wait for this one as well.
Well, the feeling is not just mutual. The feeling is mutual plus let's put an extra 20% on top of that. So this time, the first time the reason I came across you, you're a co-author of a book on neuroscience and leadership. And since we've been continuing our discussion, you actually put out literally a textbook where you're co-author with two other peers on how neuroscience and marketing kind of how they cross paths. And as you know, and I guess this is a little bit of full disclosure, almost my entire background is marketing and digital marketing, etc. So why don't we just start there? Well, before we go there, this is, to your credit, one of the most referenced, highly researched books I've ever read. I mean, when it just going through the kind of industry examples, I mean, that alone is 2.5 pages long. So kudos to you on that. Talk to me just about, absolutely. Talk to me about the new marketer. It seems like there was maybe a line in the sand, let's call it, I'll just make up, 10 years ago, that went from traditional marketing to where we are now. How do you see that in your research and in your book?
So what you said first is very true. We did a lot of work to research about the book, and there is another reason why the book has all this wealth of sources, because it took me 20 years to write. So this is actually a book that came out of my 20 plus years of experience in teaching on MBA programs, of course, corporate programs, other masters and undergraduate degrees for marketeers. I come from marketing, and also my both academic and professional background is mostly within marketing. So all these years that I was teaching marketing, I was, of course, researching marketing, applying marketing, working in various companies and industries. I was always struggling to find the right textbook. This is a clear case of, if it is not there, go and create it. And that's actually what I did. These 20 years of trying to find concrete and reliable answers to my students, my colleagues, my ecosystem. I was not satisfied with books. There were textbooks that were amazing in covering a lot of ground, and there were some individual books that were going actually very specialized in a topic, but there was no book that took marketing, let's say, in a next serious level and tried to understand the real strategic questions or pains or worries of marketeers. So coming from this background, there is always a need for a new marketeer, because always life, business, technology, culture, we say now a business in the speed of culture. So there is always a need of a marketeer that will not just incorporate that what is happening, crunch and bring back, but be one, integrate, themselves with everything that is happening, all these different forces that influences consumers, brand positioning, and companies as well. So there's a constantly, it's not by accident that if you want to see which department in corporations is the first one to incorporate and to bring in some new fashion, new technology, new idea, is always marketing. Look at this. We talk about relationship marketing. We talk about, of course, social media in marketing. We talk about customer engagement. We talk about customer experience for 15 years now, 20 years. The last 5 years, HR catches up always. If you want to see what HR will talk tomorrow, look at what marketing is doing today. So, it's because you have to understand, and I'm sure you've seen this with your friends, the pressure under which marketeers operate. Because marketeers are these people, and I'm talking about not so much about the marketing department, because it depends on how a company is organized. Sometimes it's the sales department that drives everything, and marketing is kind of supportive. In some others, it's the marketing department that drives everything, and then sales support, or they are in an equal terms in the organizational chart. So I'm not talking about particularly the department, but the discipline of marketing. These people are there not only to sell, but to create such relation with the marketplace, loyalty with the customers, to bring and build relevant, strong, inspirational brands. And that's actually, I think, the most difficult job for to be in a company. It's the most difficult position to have in every company. So there is always need for marketeers to refresh, to reconnect, to understand, to predict. We had a big discussion about prediction and how it works in the brain, previous time. And I think, Matthew, that we did a mistake as marketeers in our constant urge and speed to adapt and even spearhead the new changes. We fell into a trap the last 15 years. And the trap is what we call in the book the technicalization of marketing. So if you ask many people in the marketing industry, and now even marketing industry, I'm not sure what it refers to, because before the internet and the social media and the digital revolution, it was quite specific. Now, what we consider marketing is a much, much wider term. But, if you ask many people, who will say the new marketer is the digital marketer. And this is the mistake we did. The mistake we did was that in this passion to provide answers, to develop brands, more importantly, to appear as equal business partners with other colleagues in a company. We mentioned some research, and 81% of CEOs, global study, do not trust marketeers, and they don't find the results reliable. 90% of the same CEOs trust, guess who? CFOs, finance people, and technology, CTOs. Okay, but so marketeers are considered a kind of, you see a marketeer coming towards you, you are the CEO, say, oh, the marketeer, more money, let me hide somewhere so I don't see them. So marketeers were not considered as equally in the same footing concerning business stance. We were something less and something more expensive. So in order to become more reliable, more predictive, to make sure we have this return on investment clearly brought up and not, fluffy answers like, oh, but we increased, likes on my website, on my Facebook page, so I'm the best marketer. Yeah, did anybody buy anything?
Yeah, that's right.
So we accepted, we fell into the trap, and we believe that digital will save marketing. And unfortunately, this didn't happen. And I have if you want, a couple of facts to support this.
Yes, please.
So until 2018, there was a big competition. Who will lead in corporations? Digital transformation. Okay. Now, digital transformation, this big buzzword, some people saw it in a very superficial way, like a company adapting digital marketing. Some people saw it, companies applying and adapting digital processes. They digitalize the process inside, but actually digital transformation is even more than this. It goes to the core of the business model and the philosophy of the company. So it's a quite big transformative project. It's not one piece here and one piece there. So there was a big competition. Who will lead this? And it was between two disciplines. It was the tech guys, the tech people, CIOs, we call them chief information officers or chief technology officers or whatever we call them now, or the marketeers, because the marketeers supposedly, in theory, they are the linchpin between the external environment, especially consumers, customers, market, and the company. So the marketeers, by definition, they live in this fine line between the internal and the external. And guess who won? So up to 2017-18, it was kind of 50-50. But from last year, actually 2018 onwards, the data shows that actually CTOs, CIOs, the tech people won over the marketing people.
Absolutely.
Leading probably the most strategic projects that company and important business adaptation projects that companies do now, the transformation. So marketeers, we lost. We are now playing the second role. Of course, not always, but statistically speaking, we are number two. That's a problem of marketing. Why did we lose this? While we were the first ones to jump into digital, to very early with CD-ROM marketing and whatever was the beginning. I don't know if you remember this or MySpace.
I still have some, absolutely.
Unbelievable. Or I don't know, MySpace marketing and all these kind of things, and talking about this digital philosophy and what digital as a mindset, not only as a process, but as a mindset, as a new reality brings. But we lost it. Why? Because we actually said marketing is tech. If you say this, and you know what? I was delivering a keynote in a regional conference in Southeast Europe for startups, and there were very young people there. And I asked, okay, for you, it was like an acceleration process, yes, event. So I asked, what is marketing for you? And there were more tech startups. And a very young person raises his hand and says, yeah, what is it? And he says, software. And at that moment, I didn't know in which parallel universe I was. You know, I'm deep into marketing since 91, you know, when I started teaching. Even before, I can tell you stories how in high school, I was very much into communications, behavior, and all this, reading about this, practicing in some ways. And when somebody says, but marketing is software, so, you know, in a way, degrading all these decades, if not more, approaching creating strong brands to a function of a software, I was shocked. And then it hit me what big mistake we marketeers did. So we said marketing is tech, but we are not the tech people. So thank you very much. Marketing is tech. Let me step back and take the second position. It was really, really a catastrophic thing. This not to say, because I know what your friends will say, like my friends would say, I believe in digital marketing. It's not I believe or not, it's reality. It's a fantastic new tool. It's a fantastic new channel, but there is a difference between channel and total transformation. There is a difference between these.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'll tell you why you're an unusual marketer. You've already mentioned twice. You've already alluded to a failure. Marketers don't talk about failure, so you're an exception to that rule. But let me dig in, because I love that that line in the stand around the difference between software and tech and marketing, because you kind of double down in the book on that marketing truly is science up against art. And that is something that the CTO, the CIO, they are just the science side of it. Walk us through that. Walk us through that blend of, this is where the neuroscience comes in, this is where the technology comes in, but at the end of the day, it's about that consumer, that perceived consumer relationship with a good or service. Walk us through your findings on that.
Excellent. You put it in excellent terms. Of course, when you talk to a CEO, and the CEO takes all the statistics as we have them in the book, you know, how many new products fail? When I started teaching, you know, 25 years ago, it was something like 65%, maybe 70, 60%. Then it went up to 75%, 3 out of 4 new products failed. Then it went to 80%, 85%. Now it's around 92%. So failure, there is another number we have in the book, you know, how many marketing campaigns fail to deliver, not sales, on their messages. So not return on investment, return on objective, ROO. 85% of campaigns fail to deliver in their own messages. So how much waste of money, regardless if it is TV, if it is an event, or is it digital marketing? Because we can discuss in length how the click-through rate and all these things that we measure our marketeers, how actually ridiculous numbers there are. You know, 0.35% click-through rate according to Forrester, 0.35%. So which is ridiculous. Okay, and you hear all these companies, we have laser focus, micro targeting. You see the statistic, actually, it's a lot of PR, So, you know, there is this kind of failure or inability of marketeers to stand in front of the CEO and discuss numbers that we can stand, you know, by them, can stand behind them and say we support them. And this inability to produce reliable results actually creates the mindset of the marketing is 50% science and 50% art. And this is a mindset that, you know, if you dig back, it was, I think, John Wanamaker, an industrialist in 1850, so 19th century, industrialist. And, you know, industrial revolution, for the first time in human history, we had products cheap, you know, produced somewhere else and bought somewhere else. And this industrialist was spending money on marketing. Of course, back then it was not called marketing. It was called advertising. It was called promotion, pushing, you know, support, sales support, etc. So his friends, other industrialists, were asking him, John, why do you spend this money to promote? Because back then it was build it and they will come, because it was for the first time in human history. There was no supermarkets in that way that we have them today. So just you made it and most probably you would sell. So why do you put all this money in the promotion, in marketing, in advertising? Does it work? And his answer is, well, I'm sure that 50% works and 50% is waste. I just know which, I don't know which 50%, which actually encapsulates the DNA, the inherent problem of marketing. That if you ask a marketer that was amazingly successful today, and 6 months later had a disaster, and you say, wait, are you not the same person? And say, it's not me to blame. Humans are unpredictable, because me, the marketeer, I deal with humans. I try to understand, connect, and influence human behavior, and human nature is chaotic. This is why the first budget to be cut in every crisis is which one? It's the marketing budget.
Absolutely.
Why in every
Especially
crisis?
Advertising. Yep.
Yes, bravo. Yes, which actually it represents the biggest part of many marketing budgets. Yep. So marketing department is the first one to lose money. You know which one is second usually? HR, especially training and development, which is again about people. So there is a pattern here. There are people, professionals within companies that deal with numbers, like finance, that deal with technology, which numbers and technology from the night till the morning, they will not change themselves. They don't have what we call in psychology internal logic. They have external logic. Something happens to them. But humans, both as consumers, customers, and internal, we have what's called internal logic. You can do whatever as external force, and there is an internal algorithm that, or many of them, or hundreds of thousands of them, that will bring something else. So somehow, understandably, marketeers stand and say this, mantra. It's not me. It's the profession. So, Matthew, why we wrote this book is, do we accept defeat? Say, you know what? Regardless what we do with marketing, there will always be an art element. So I can never compete in seriousness, IT people or finance people or infrastructure people or real estate people. I cannot. I will always have this unpredictability of the human factor. Okay, and this is where, and this is actually this very basic, a very primal, if you want, fear of marketeers, which exists in marketing since we said 1850s, is what pushed us, heads first into digital, because we were promised that digital will solve the problem of unpredictability of human behavior and will make us more scientific, more reliable, more trustworthy, more return on investment kind of professionals, rather than fluffy stuff that we spend money and we called it spray and pray. You spray and you pray that somebody will buy. But because digital didn't deliver, we need, I think, and this is the promise of the book, and I went a little bit long in your question, but
no, you're fine.
Back in, is that we need to inject science back to marketing. And when we talk about science, if we accept that the big problem of marketing is predictability of human behavior, do we have any science that can help us deal with this? We used to have psychology, especially cognitive psychology, which I'm provocatively very against. Okay, not complete, but the main premise of cognitive psychology. Before that, we had behavioral psychology, people like Skinner and Pavlov and all these people. And now we have actually a rebirth, a huge comeback of behavioral psychology because of big data and digital. Most of CRM analytics and digital analytics and online analytics is actually, if I could see, I think that Pavlov and Skinner now would be in their graves saying, "We told you, we are back." Because most of the analytics today are behavioral psychology analytics, which we can go in depth maybe now. So behavioral psychology says input, output. I give you something, you click there instead of clicking there. And so I show to 50 people this website, I show to another 50 people the same website, but maybe with different, go to action color. Here is green, here is red. If I see that more people click on the green, then I apply this. This is Pavlov's. Pavlov's theory. This is Skinner. Do you know what's happening in the mind, in the brain, in the neurons? No, you correlate input with output. Behavioral psychology, full behavioral psychology. We are now all behavioral psychologists and behavioral economists, of course, etc. But I think this is not enough, and already mistakes have been done, and already money has been wasted. We need to go more on the why the brain reacts, not only if I prefer A or B, which has its shortcomings. Not only to ask Nikos, hey, Nikos, why did you do you like A or B? This is self-reporting of cognitive.
Yep.
There is a third way, and the third way is neuroscience. And I think that, you know, I adopted neuroscience in my life because of the pain of not having concrete models to teach my students and work with my clients. It was around 2003, 2004 that something happened, and I realized that it was the beginning of neuromarketing, and I said that this is it. This is what we are missing. All the others are fantastic tools, but if you take digital and you apply the same outdated models of human behavior, human understanding, and human decision making with a new model, you will just produce new mistakes. So this is why I said it's a strategic level of new marketeer we need, not only on a tactical level or operational level. And this, unfortunately, Matthew, we still miss. And I'm not looking, it doesn't look good. We try.
You covered three more of my questions right here. We dipped into predictive modeling. We dipped into data. Let me drill down though on. I want to get a little bit deeper into. So then, if you're a marketer, where does, especially if you're coming at it from a neuromarketer perspective, where does that creativity and where does that, this is probably the wrong term, but the risk taking, where's that healthy level in there that you're not completely if X then Y, that you're introducing some creativity to kind of throw in some of that marketing magic? Where's that balance?
Well, now you're kind of scratching an old wound of mine, because I used to own an advertising agency and I worked with many advertising, and I was a client of advertising agency, creative content generating people. And there is something that needs to be done with that industry. Neuromarketing exists late 90s, first agencies, first academic studies, beginning of 2000. And it was just 2019, so 20 years after neuromarketing has been a topic, where Ad Age, this website for,
yep.
A portal for the industry, had an article saying neuromarketing, not a snake oil anymore. We need to do it. 20 freaking years after we're discussing it. And in my experience, I have to tell you that creative people, not all of them, of course, it's not one size fits all, but specifically, especially, and this might sound as a paradox, but I can explain. Especially, Matthew, the successful advertising agencies are the most averse to accept this kind of new sciences. And there are two reasons. One is business model. I think I tell you a great anecdotal there why. And the other is how we train these people. So creative industry, which I think, based on our studies, with my practice, we studied more than now 6,000 brains from 25 countries. So we have quite extensive experience applying neuromarketing in many different elements. 20 years ago, we used to say, bring me your ad, I will test it with neuro, and then I will tell you to do the final editing. You already produced it. You already applied the creative concept. It was too late. It's still interesting. You can still see good things, but neuromarketing needed to go more back in the early stage of the creative process. And this is what we do today. Let's call it neuromarketing 2.0. I don't know, something like this. Now neuromarketing is not just bring me something ready. Now we are testing the creative process in the very beginning, to answer your question about creativity. So when, for example, and there is this saying in creativity, never the first idea is the best. Usually the third, fourth, fifth idea, if you also go into the neuroscience of creative thinking and creative problem solving, is a numbers game. Sometimes the more you exercise it, the better ideas come out. So we have now fantastic protocols where we test creative concepts in the early stage, so you don't go to production and then it's quite. So from the one, to answer it in one way, it's now neuromarketing helps spend the energy, the time, and the money, of course, in the creative direction that seems to attract and agree with the brain in an early stage. But there is something else which is more strategic, Matthew. I can't remember exactly who said that. I think it was somebody from Ogilvy, and this is a creative director. He said, "Please give me the freedom of a tight strategy."
Absolutely.
And this is so amazing.
Absolutely. I know exactly where you're going here.
This is so amazing. So if you want, and this is again a kind of attitudinal problem. So if you think that your job as a creative person or content creation is to create art in your own time, do your art and go and exhibit it wherever you want. I will support you. But if you are on my money, on my clock, and you need to produce something for this company, for this brand, is the strategy, the data, neuromarketing on other, that will create from this space, that space. But there is where you are creative. Do you want to show me how creative you are? I will narrow the space of creativity, and there you have to go deeper. There, see how creative you are.
Absolutely. Okay, now you're speaking to my soul. I mean, that is, creativity is found in the limitations, not in the infinite. If you have infinity,
Bravo.
all the money, all of the boundary, you can do anything you want. But it's in those niches where true genius, marketing genius comes out. Exactly. Oh my goodness. So before we run out of time, it's hard to talk about marketing in general, but especially when it gets to neuroscience, without talking about the ethics involved, because we've seen we've seen brands make missteps, we've seen executive make missteps. Give me your thoughts and some of the things that you outline in the book around how to strike that balance, especially in the Eurozone. I mean, they're more specific than ever about consumer protection rights in the digital space. What are some of your thoughts?
Of course. I mean, first of all, there is the legal part. Okay, as you said, Europe has now this GDPR protocol, which is very protective of consumer rights and privacy and control and transparency of information, personal information. So all neuromarketing agencies comply fully through, of course, legal help to these guidelines. Okay, so there is the legal aspect is done. You have to have it. We don't discuss it if somebody doesn't follow it. Okay, but there are other issues outside of the legal aspect, which then it comes to you as an industry, as a professional, as companies, agencies that deal with this, to educate the market, both consumers and companies, for the right use of what we call neuromarketing. Because, neuromarketing, you can see it in two ways. The one is you can see it as a consulting. And many people, I would say, unfortunately, see it like this. So people read a couple of books on the brain. Maybe they see a couple of speeches online. Maybe they go to a MOOC, a MOOC program online, and they say, and it happens. I mean, clients of mine have said that, this consultant came and said, now I'm a neuromarketing advisor. Show me your ad. I will tell you why the brain will not like it, which is, kind of. It's not necessarily bad. We do have these consulting services, but that consulting thing, which is based on nudge theory, behavioral economics, and Cialdini's persuasion principles and all, this is fine, but I wouldn't call it neuromarketing. I would call it persuasion consulting. Okay, neuromarketing for me, and I'm quite hardcore on that, is marketing research, is utilizing neurofeedback and biofeedback technology to collect data from brain decision making while you expose the brain and the body, okay, because the brain is not alone, it has a body, the brain and the body in your marketing activities, pricing, apps, packaging, advertising, creative ideas, social media content, you name it. But this is what for me is neuromarketing. And I think there is still a lot of room of us educating, informing. One of the barriers of neuromarketing is also that marketeers, 20 years ago, we asked them to learn to code, okay, in a way or another. 20 years ago, we said to marketeers, now software. Okay, software. Now we tell them fMRI scan and electroencephalogram. And they kind of, we have to empathize with them. So they say, now what? I go back to medical school and I become a neurologist. But what I usually tell them, Matthew, is that in all my years in research, academic research, research that I commissioned as a marketing professional, as an advisor and consultant that I help my clients utilize, and every type of research. Actually, neuromarketing research is the easiest for the client to read. It's absolutely walk in the park, because regardless the devices, the electrodes and the brain waves, actually the client sees 1, 2, 3, 4 matrix, and that's it.
Yep.
When I
Yep.
show
Yep.
them
Yep.
this,
Yep.
when we show them this, say, so this is it. I don't have to wear a white robe and, maybe lobotomize my client. No, you don't have to do this. It's really, but I don't think we have done the best in educating the market. I hope it will become better.
That is fantastic. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but I'm going to show you, because this is the book, Advanced Marketing Management. Nikos right there as the pole position author. Thank you so much for the time. You always give me so much to think about, and of course I'll have 400 more questions for you here in an hour, so you'll have to come back again.
Would
but
love
in
to.
the meantime, thank you so much for the time, and look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you so much, Matthew.